Welcome back. Way back in 1997, the global news media descended on Hong Kong to cover the handing over of the former British colony to China. It was a major news story. But 2 years after that, in a story that mostly passed under the news radar, China regained control of another former European colony, this one Portuguese. Macao has just marked the 10th anniversary of that handover. Macao is known as a gambling mecca, and its economy has thrived in lockstep with the boom in China. But what has the political transition meant for freedom of expression there? Macao still has laws on the books that supposedly guarantee a free press. However, as the Listening Post's Simon Ostrovsky found, closer ties to China mean that the law is not always followed to the letter.
10 years ago, the Portuguese rulers of Europe's last colony in China packed their bags and headed home. Macao was handed over to China, and for the Macanese, the future was uncertain. Today, Macao's economy is booming, and it's become the world's top-earning gambling hotspot. But a decade ago, local journalists weren't even certain they'd have a job after the Chinese took over.
We were worried that there would be an erosion on the freedom of speech, on our freedom as journalists to work in Macao.
But as the economy grew, so did the number of publications, and mainland Chinese-style censorship of the media never materialized here. In the 10 years since Macao was handed back to the People's Republic of China, the economy here has boomed, and so has the media, with a proliferation of new newspapers and magazines, but most of them are supported by the government, and that is a problem for free speech. Just across the border of the Macao Special Administrative Region, mainland China and its authorities keep a tight lid on dissent and still censor content in newspapers, television, and on the internet. But under the One China, Two Systems policy, Macao, like Hong Kong, is left to manage its own affairs. Tiny Macao has a population of just over 500,000, but there are radio and television services in 3 languages and dozens of newspapers and magazines for both Chinese-speaking and Western readers. Most only survive thanks to government support, and as a result, few dare to criticize the authorities.
All media receive subsidies in huge amount of money. So they survive not because of the publicity or by selling newspapers.
This, he says, is the reward for papers who toe the government line. A brand new office building given to the privately owned Macao Daily News, free of charge.
A decade of change.
The 10-year anniversary of Macao's return was big news in mainland China, and an opportunity for the government to drum in yet again its narrative of China's rise. China's President Hu Jintao was welcomed with fanfare and praised Macao's leadership. But at least 2 reporters from Hong Kong were barred from the event by Macao immigration authorities. A number of activists, also from Hong Kong, who wanted to stage protests around the Hu visit, were also turned away. China Central Television ran a number of specials and news reports to mark the anniversary.
Despite the relatively small size, Macao has a well-developed media industry.
Its story on Macao's media scene for foreign viewers portrayed the territory as a beacon of media freedom.
And in what extent is the independence editorial policy that you have when you open this magazine?
Completely.
João Pinto heads up the Portuguese language portion of Macao's public broadcaster, TDM. He witnessed the handover as a journalist in 1999.
It was a very emotional day for me. I'm a Portuguese. This was the last Portuguese colony in the world, in Asia, and there were indeed some worries. Moving back to China for some of us meant that we were afraid that our freedom of speech would be somehow diminished or we would have problems in the future. Well, fortunately, nothing happened. There was no erosion in the freedom of speech. There was no cutback on the operations of the Portuguese TV channel. We can criticize local officials. We can produce news and current affairs program which debates policies, and we do that.
But did the same hold true for Macao's Chinese language media? José Coutinho of the legislature told me that even at the public broadcaster, his critical remarks were rarely broadcast in Chinese.
This is a public local Chinese TV station, and it happens not once. It's every time that I speak, the most important part is omitted, and that makes us quite frustrated.
Joao Pinto conceded that the rules seem to be different for foreign reporters and their Chinese colleagues.
They seldom criticize the government, either the central government or the local government. They seem to exercise a high degree of self-censorship on reporting certain news which might be harmful to the image of Macau or to the image of local leaders.
I wanted to find out why that was, but many Chinese journalists I approached said they couldn't talk about the issue on camera.
Because I know the Portuguese language media here, they're able to, report pretty much anything they want because the government isn't really concerned about what they say. But for Chinese journalists, is it different?
This kind of question, actually, maybe I have to mention to my boss first.
One reporter who was willing to speak to me confirmed that editors did pressure reporters to avoid sensitive topics.
They would somehow indirectly influence your news. Like, are you sure you have to report in this way? Are you sure you have to say this word, this phrase? Nowadays, maybe everybody on the street knows what is happening in the society, but we just cannot broadcast what we observed.
Macau's European past has given it an edge over mainland China in terms of a vibrant media landscape. But even here, it seems, some things are best left unsaid. Yet while the economy continues to expand and Macau's financial fortunes rise, few are likely to question the course the authorities have set out.
More Global Village Voices now on the story in Macau.
At a time when media organisations all over the world are contracting their operations, the Chinese authorities have invested billions of dollars into expanding their media operations. While it looks slick, it looks more diverse, it's more sophisticated, it still has to represent China's viewpoint. And to China, propaganda is not a degraded form of information, it is information.
The Chinese, in all kinds of ways, are edging into the international system and into what you might call the wider world. Now, they've always thought that the media inside China is very important to get out the party's message. Now, one of the things that they are catching on to is that there are other countries which send out the message not with the expectation that people are going to obey what they read or what they hear, but that people will be persuaded. It's been, on the whole, not very successful with their foreign language press, but I think that they are having more success with a relatively flexible way of putting things on the radio and in television.
Finally, media junkies have had it up to here with reviews of the 2009 news year, but we're going to ask for your indulgence one last time. Jib Jab is an interesting outfit. Set up by a pair of brothers in their garage in Brooklyn, New York, they broke the mold for animation-based internet humor way back in 2004 when their video of George W. Bush and John Kerry singing "This Land Is Your Land" became one of the biggest viral hits in history. Their take on the 2009 news year is our web video of the week, and we hereby promise that from here on in, our focus will be strictly on 2010. We'll see you next time at The Listening Post.
Of the years that have passed in time, no, there has never been one like 09. 43 was pushed out the door, and 44's a bit darker than before. There was fraud in Afghanistan, and a Twitter revolt in Iran. All Governor Palin quit, Bill Clinton picked up chicks, while the swine flu wrapped around the globe. Yes, there were late-night lusts, and auto kings went bust. In the Hudson, Captain Sully made a splash. Michael hit the bomb, there wasn't a Huckle bomb. 209, we sing so long. There was change at the highest court, a wise Latina named Sotomayor, and a surprise Nobel Award, but nobody was really quite sure. Muammar